Hello, and you're very welcome to this episode of Lit, where I'll be talking about Swimming Home by Deborah Levy. Before I get into the book, as this is the first book video on the Lit channel, a little about the format that I'll be trying my best to stick to in whatever book videos we do here over the foreseeable future. There are 5 parts, or I'll be trying to add 5 parts to each video. First, an introduction about the book and its author. Second, a quick overview of the book, including its setting and its main characters, particularly its male characters. Third, a short reading from the book. Fourth, what we might learn from it. And fifth, 2 cues, 2 questions for you to consider or maybe journal on whether you read the book or not. So first, a little about the book and its writer. Swimming Home was first published by the independent UK publisher And Other Stories in 2011. And the copy I have, this one with a cover with a red-haired woman in a swimming pool, seemingly naked, was published the following year by Faber and Faber. Deborah Levy has written plays and novels and short stories and a 3-part living autobiography, the final part titled Real Estate, which is published in February 2022, the same month that this video goes live. Levy was born in South Africa. Her father Norman was a prominent anti-apartheid activist and a member of the ANC before they moved to the UK when she was a child. The Observer newspaper in the UK has written about her that no writer aside from Virginia Woolf has written better about what it is to be a woman. Swimming Home does have lots to say on the female experience, but this video will try to go through a little of what it might say about men and the male experience, about men's relationship with women, and finally what it might ask us to consider about our place as men in the world. The book covers a week in the lives of a wealthy middle-class family in a rented holiday villa in the French Riviera. Joe Jacobs is a famous poet, his wife Isabel is a famous war reporter, and that couple and their 14-year-old daughter Nina have been joined on holiday by another couple, Isabel's lifelong friend Laura and her husband Mitchell. These 5 are soon joined by Kitty Finch, a young botanist and aspiring poet who has stayed at the house in the past and seems to have arrived on a misunderstanding over the villa's availability and is invited by Isabel to stay for a few days in one of its spare rooms. Even by the time Isabel makes this invitation to Kitty though, which happens just 6 pages in, we've already been told a lot about the upheaval that Kitty's arrival is going to bring for everyone here. For one thing, her presence is noticed when the holidaymakers return to the villa on a Saturday afternoon to find her swimming naked in the villa's pool, her dress thrown casually beneath a poolside chair. For another, we've already had a 1-page flash forward at the very beginning. The book's first line is, when Kitty Finch took her hand off the steering wheel and told him that she loved him, he no longer knew if she was threatening him or having a conversation. A few words about the male characters here. There are 4 main male characters in the book. Joe Jacobs is the wealthy, famous, and as he describes himself, arsehole poet. There's Mitchell, who has joined the Jacobs family on holiday. There is Jürgen, a romantic, idealistic German hippie type who is the caretaker of the villa for its absentee landlady. And there's Claude, the owner of a nearby cafe and who's playing up his sex appeal through his Mick Jagger type looks. All 4 have their own challenges to overcome, their competing desires or unspoken, unacted rages. Mitchell is coping with financial and professional struggles through excessive eating. Jürgen is trying to think of ways to express his love, or more likely his infatuation, with Kitty Finch. And Claude has his own love or lust interest in Nina, the Jacobs' beautiful 14-year-old daughter. Kitty struggles. She is a dropout, both academically and professionally. Her ambitions as a writer, the slow revelations of her psychological problems, her apparent obsession with Joe Jacobs, and the dawning sense that her arrival here was carefully planned and orchestrated rather than coincidental. All of this provides the energy and the unpredictability behind everything in the book. Lust and the prospect of infidelity, both its promise of thrill and the weighty, life-changing repercussions of it, are a major driving force here, but I found myself drawn to the relationship between the poet and his wife as much as anything. Here's a passage about that relationship. Fathers and daughters. So his lost daughter was asleep in Kitty's bed. Joe sat in the garden at his makeshift desk, waiting for the panic that had made his fingers tear the back of his neck to calm as he watched his wife talking to Laura inside the villa. His breathing was all over the place. He was fighting to breathe. Did he think Kitty Finch, who had stopped taking Siroxat and must be suffering, had lost her grip and murdered his daughter? His wife was now walking towards him through the gaps in the cypress trees. He shifted his legs as if part of him wanted to run away from her or perhaps run towards her. He truly did not know which way to go. He could try to tell Isabel something, but he wasn't sure how to begin because he wasn't sure how it would end. There were times he thought she could barely look at him without hiding her face in her hair, and he could not look at her either because he had betrayed her so often. Perhaps now he should at least try and tell her that when she abandoned her young daughter to lie in a tent crawling with scorpions, he understood it made more sense of her life to be shot at in war zones than lied to by him in the safety of her own home. All the same, he knew his daughter had cried for her in the early years, and then later learned not to because it didn't bring her back. In turn, this subject turned and turned and turned regularly in his mind. His daughter's distress brought to him, her father, feelings he could not handle with dignity. He had told his readers how he was sent to boarding school by his guardians, and how he used to watch the parents of his school friends leave on visiting day, Sundays, and if his own parents had visited him too, he would have stood forever in the tire marks their car had made in dust. His mother and father were night visitors, not afternoon visitors. They appeared to him in dreams he instantly forgot, but he reckoned they were trying to find him. What had worried him most was he thought they might not have enough English words between them to make themselves understood. Is Joseph my son here? We have been looking for him all over the world. He had cried for them, and then later learned not to because it didn't bring them back. He looked at his clever tanned wife with her dark hair hiding her face. This was the conversation that might start something or end something, but it came out wrong, just too random and fucked. He heard himself ask her if she liked honey. So, should you read Swimming Home, and if you do, what might you take from it? Well, first off, let's talk about the type of book it is. I really don't like the term literary fiction or lit fic. It always just seems too superior, too pompous, too full of itself. The way I describe books like this, and most of the books and stories that I plan to cover on this channel, is complex fiction. Not necessarily, or often not at all, because the writing itself is complex. More so because it deals with the complexity of being, and all the daily contradictory desires and often insurmountable challenges that we deal with as humans. After all, what makes life meaningful is that while we have an extraordinarily powerful survival instinct, life will inevitably end for all of us and for everyone that we love. If that is not an insurmountable challenge, I'm not sure what is. So, Swimming Home is a good example of what I'm calling complex fiction. And if you're new to this type of book, if you're new to complex fiction, this might not be a bad place to start. There is a lot of depth here and a lot of important things floating between what's said and what's written. But the complexity is in the lives, both the inner lives and the outer lives of its characters, rather than in the writing style. It's very short, at about 150 pages, and the structure is easy to follow. 8 chapters, Saturday to Saturday. And the writing style is powerful without needing anything ostentatious. In fact, I often think that the less ostentatious a piece of writing is, the more powerful it is. So when you get into a flow here, you'll probably find yourself zipping through this quite quickly. There are very many complex and weighty subject matters present here. Ambition, greed, identity, and fame are covered in the way Joe and Isabel think about their careers, who we are, who we're seen to be, who we might want to be. The lasting difficulty of squaring this selfness, with parenthood and marital relationships, which are often in many ways defined by who we are and how we are around other people. Loss and grief, lust and betrayal, it's all in here. We have two people, a poet and a journalist, each of whom has achieved great success and fame and riches with words, but who find it impossible to express themselves to each other, find it impossible to put into words what it is they really want from themselves, want from each other, want out of life. Finally, for this video, 2 cues or 2 questions for you to consider whether you read Swimming Home or not. 1. Does lust have a cost? And if so, what might that cost be? And 2. How might I square the selfness required by ambition with the selflessness often required by relationships? Of course, all of this, everything I've spoken about, is just my incomplete response to Swimming Home. If you do pick up the book, I'd love to hear what you think in the comments below. Until next time on Lit, this is Shane signing off. If you haven't yet subscribed, please do press that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.